Hey, what up everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you here today. I'm going to be talking about the NXT TakeOver Brooklyn special coming to you from SummerSlam weekend. Of course, it's going to be happening in Brooklyn at the Barclays Center, the home of the Brooklyn Nets up there. This is a big deal. This is a big step forward for NXT. Of course, they're going to be wrestling in the same arena that WWE SummerSlam is going to be taking place the next night. When you watch WWE NXT's show tonight, what they were saying was they had sold 13,000 tickets, is what Kevin Owens was saying the match was going to happen in front of. And that's a huge deal. I mean, if you think about NXT, they took the huge steps, leaving Full Sail University and going to the Arnold Classic and having a live taping there in front of who knows what it would have been. Of course, they promoted the hell out of it, and WWE fans came from all over to make sure that they were able to see this live spectacular. I believe it happened in Cleveland. And even though it wasn't the most largest arena that this took place in for the Arnold Classic, it was a memorable show. And from there, a few weeks later, WWE had a house show for NXT WrestleMania weekend live from San Jose. They did tape a few things, but I don't believe anything ever made it onto the air other than Hideo Itami hitting the GTS finally, and having that WrestleMania biography that they filmed on the guy. If you've been watching WWE NXT on the WWE Network as of late, they've got some pretty good angles going right now, building up into this TakeOver Brooklyn special. If you think of the TakeOver specials that have been running on the WWE Network for well over a year now, when these quarterly shows come up, they always have a good 4 or 5 match card that really delivers. But as of right now, they really built up to having 10 matches that were named for the NXT Brooklyn special. These 10 matches are all going to be taking place in front of the live crowd. But Triple H cleared the air today by saying that only 5 of these matches are going to take place on the NXT special. And then the other 5 matches will be taped, and then they will be aired on the NXT episode that will air next Wednesday on the WWE Network. But as of right now, there's big debuts. If you think about Apollo Crews and Eva Marie, will both be debuting for the NXT brand. Well, I guess Eva Marie's not really debuting because she's wrestled in WWE on the main roster before, and she has had a match for NXT at Full Sail, but I guess you can say this is her first big match when she's going to be going up against Carmella. Unison Nation having his debut wrestling now as Apollo Crews, going up against Ty Dillinger. Bull Dempsey is going up against a guy named Elias Sampson. He's been sort of trying to turn himself around with William Regal as his coach the last few weeks. You're going to have a great 4-way with 4 great women. Charlotte, Becky Lynch, Dana Brooke, and I can't think of the last girl's name. But she's gonna be in there in that 4-way. That one's gonna be going down. And that should be a really great match. Then you have a big, huge match, sort of promoting the tag team division that's going on with NXT right now. You've got Zack Ryder and Enzo Amore. With Mojo Rawley and Colin Cassidy. They're going to be going up against a team of Dash and Dawson, Chad Gable, and Jason Jordan. I will say that honestly, I like a lot of these guys in this match, and they're mostly on the heel side. I think that Chad Gable is going to become a huge star for WWE, and I wish that this would be taking place on the NXT special, but any match that I get to see Chad Gable wrestle in, I really like. I think that some people look at him as if he's another Kurt Angle ripoff, much like Jack Swagger when he was promoted to the main roster and won the World Heavyweight Championship. A lot of people thought that they were just replacing Angle with another collegiate wrestler, and I know that WWE likes to look into the ranks of college wrestlers and pick some guys out and bring them up, but this guy looks like he's really the real deal, and I think he's going to shoot through developmental and have a big place in WWE sooner than later. He's one of the guys that I'm really rooting for. Your tag titles are going to be on the line. The Vaud Villains going up against Blake and Murphy. Jushin Thunder Liger is going to have his debut in WWE, wrestling for NXT against Tyler Breeze. Samoa Joe and Baron Corbin are the two giants really going at it. That should be a really good match. Bayley and Sasha Banks for the NXT Women's title. And then, of course, the main event, Finn Balor going up against Kevin Owens in the NXT ladder match as the big main event. They really did pack it out in Brooklyn. They sold 13,000 tickets. They say this is really a night that is going to be special. I know that it's cool that, NXT sold out a major arena in the United States, and they do have drawing power. This is sort of Triple H's baby, and we're going to have to see where he takes it from here. I guess the next step would be maybe going to, Atlanta, where Hell in the Cell is in October, maybe running something there. If he wants to go on a small scale, maybe doing it at Center Stage, right down the street from the Phillips Arena, where the Hell in the Cell show would be going, or maybe trying to just book the Phillips Arena for 2 nights and run the NXT special there the night before. I'm not really sure. I know that no, wait a minute, not Hell in the Cell is not there. It's Hell in the Cell's in LA for Staples Center, which would be another great place for another show, but they can't do that because they're in Sacramento that night. So they would have to do like the night after or something like that. And that doesn't really make sense because they have Monday Night Raw the night after that. So LA is going to be off because they're already booked to do Aftershock here in Sacramento. But what I was thinking about was doing Survivor Series weekend, having NXT be in Atlanta. There they could do the Phillips Arena, or they could do Center Stage there. So we'll see what is coming up around the block. But lots of great matches here for the NXT show, and wish them the best of luck. Unison Nation is going to be wrestling his NXT debut live at the WWE NXT TakeOver special from Brooklyn. This is going to be a really, really big deal. Unison Nation is one of the best independent workers that there is out there on the market, and WWE has finally reached out and snatched this guy up. He didn't train that long at the Performance Center before NXT is pushing him out on television. When you think of the NXT TakeOver specials, almost every single one has had some sort of debut of a new wrestler, whether it's today it was Tommy, or it was Finn Balor, Kevin Owens. They use these because they know that there's a lot of hype over these guys coming in, and people wanting to see what these guys are going to be doing on the WWE main roster. So many times we hear of guys getting signed to NXT. One thing leads to another. We never see them on television, or maybe they debut and they just sort of fizzle out along the way. You think of Sami Callihan as a guy like that right now. His name's in the news a little bit as of right now. But, I was thinking about him. He had the big debut on NXT, and he's wrestled very sparingly along the way. I don't know if they're basically chalking him up like another Chris Hero, basically thinking that he doesn't fit in and they don't really need him. So maybe just letting that contract run out before spitting him back out to the independent scene, or maybe just releasing him somewhere down the road. But, sometimes a guy that you think has no talent at all and just by luck is got signed, and he finds a niche and gets a good gimmick and works his way up to the top. And sometimes you get guys that have tons of talent get stuck with a bad gimmick, and they just don't make it along the way. But Unison Nation is going to be now wrestling as Apollo Crews. He's going to be going up against Ty Dillinger, a guy with a whole lot of talent, a guy that wrestled in Canada under the name of Sean Spears. He's been in NXT for a while. It's not like this is going to be his first match on television as well. I don't think of this guy really as a jobber, but he has wrestled matches against guys like Finn Balor on NXT in the past that didn't really have a whole lot to it. He got a little bit of offense in, but in the end, Finn Balor is the star of the show, and Ty Dillinger is not. But definitely in my mind, this is going to be an easy win for Apollo Crews. If you watched NXT tonight, leading up the go-home show to NXT TakeOver in Brooklyn, Apollo Crews had a sort of vignette talking about, what it means to him, basically saying that his whole career has led up to this point of debuting in WWE. This is the place that he belongs to be, and the soundtrack that goes over the vignette is basically, calling himself a champion. So you can see that WWE has major plans for Apollo Crews in the foreseeable future. I'm really looking forward to seeing him wrestle, and I think that you guys will too. Apollo Crews and Ty Dillinger isn't high ranking up on the list of cards for the NXT TakeOver special, but I think it might be one of the main matches that you really do remember when it's all said and done. Big match going down at NXT TakeOver in Brooklyn is Baron Corbin going up against Samoa Joe. Baron Corbin is a guy that's been in WWE's NXT developmental program for a good long while. Got over basically wrestling a long series of really short matches, basically ending the match in less than 30 seconds. The crowd would chant it out, where basically normally the match would start. The opponent would run into a big boot from Baron Corbin. Baron Corbin would hit the end of days, get the 1, 2, 3, and next thing you know, be in the showers by the time it was over. Samoa Joe has come into WWE's NXT developmental program and really been, pumping out really great matches. Right off the bat, coming in, getting right in the face of Kevin Owens, going one-on-one against Kevin Owens at an NXT show, and he's really fit into being where they are. Of course, everybody knows the story of Joe being brought in to wrestle as a sort of like a special guest on shows. Next thing you know, Ring of Honor is moving to Destination America. They're talking about featuring Samoa Joe on Ring of Honor television, and WWE has to reach out and lock up Samoa Joe to a real deal where he's not able to wrestle on anybody else's TV. Since then, Joe has been wrestling more frequently. Even wrestled a jobber match tonight on the NXT show, which was the go-home show to the TakeOver special, where he beat a guy in just a matter of seconds before Baron Corbin came in and laid Joe out with the end of days. But this is basically where this feud really comes down to. Baron Corbin had been laying guys out week after week with the end of days. Basically laid out a challenge, standing over one of them one day, basically saying that when he hits his finisher, there's no one in NXT that's able to get up from this. Baron Corbin is a guy that has gone through a little bit of a change over, I think, since the last NXT TakeOver special. For the longest time, wrestling as a babyface, but with a little bit of a gray side. Eventually, just full-on turning heel around the time of the Philadelphia NXT. I guess it was a house show. Maybe they did put some of it on TV, but he wrestled against Tommy Dreamer, which was supposed to be Bubba Ray Dudley before he ended up doing the TNA show, and WWE had to pull out on him. But now Baron Corbin is coming in as a heel, and he's going to be going up against Samoa Joe. I don't think that Baron Corbin has ever lost. They don't really hype up his undefeated streak when I watch NXT, but I can't never think of him losing. I know that he had a feud against Bull Dempsey where he ended Bull Dempsey's undefeated streak, but I can never think of anybody getting a chance to actually beat him. I thought maybe Rhino what might have been his toughest competitor along the way, but I think that Baron Corbin sailed through the Rhino feud undefeated without taking a loss. But these two guys getting in there is going to be really good, and it's really going to show us what they're going to be doing with Samoa Joe in the foreseeable future in NXT. Is Joe going to be down there just as a big name that when you see him on the card or you see him wrestling on a show, you make sure that you tune in and you want to see it? Or maybe if NXT is coming to your town, you want to go out and you want to see Samoa Joe wrestle live. Is that the way they're going to treat him, or are they really pumping this guy up to move him over to the main roster? This could go either way. Like I said, Baron Corbin has never lost a match before. Samoa Joe, as far as being in WWE, has never lost as well. So somebody's got to win. In the end, I think, honestly, I would rather see Baron Corbin beat Samoa Joe. I think that would mean more to the NXT name brand of pumping out superstars to get them ready. Baron Corbin is nowhere near ready. I know when they were getting him ready to wrestle in the Bull Dempsey feud, they had him wrestling in longer matches where the crowd gave up on trying to count the finish out, and he just looked really lost and just didn't look like he really knew 100% what he was doing. Would I like to go into a dark alley with this guy? Hell no, he'd beat the shit out of me. And that's why I think I like him a little bit. So Baron Corbin to get the win over Samoa Joe at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn. After finding out that he was outside of a WWE title picture for NXT TakeOver Brooklyn, Tyler Breeze went to William Regal and said, hey, I want to have a high-profile match where basically I'm going to be looked at as, even though I'm not in the title match, I am in the main event. I want people looking at me like I am a big deal in WWE's NXT. We've seen, Tyler Breeze wrestle in a few main events at TakeOver specials, like I think at the Fatal 4-Way, and I believe he had another one where it was just a one-on-one against Neville. Maybe that was just a regular NXT show, but it was a really built-up show, so... I know that he's had main events, and I know that he's been there before. Tyler Breeze is a big staple of NXT. I believe that a lot of people have been looking for him to get bumped up to the main roster somewhere along the way. Some people think that he's just going to be a perfect fit to wrestle against a guy like Dolph Ziggler, or maybe take Dolph Ziggler's place and be a fixture in the United States in the Intercontinental title picture. We'll have to see what comes from there. I think that, Tyler Breeze definitely is one of the best hands that they have. He always seems to be, wrestling in great matches, and maybe he has done everything there is to do in NXT, and maybe that's good that he's wrestling this match here. William Regal, in storyline, basically, took a few weeks and basically pulled a rabbit out of his hat, finding a way to get a big match for Tyler Breeze, and that's being Jushin Thunder Liger, coming all the way from New Japan Pro Wrestling, is going to be wrestling at the NXT special. He's actually going to be flying over on the same flight as the New Japan wrestlers that will be wrestling for Ring of Honor in the same city on the same night. It's a kind of a sticky situation how New Japan Wrestling was able to book this kind of a deal, but I think when WWE calls, everybody knows that WWE is the main game in town, and anything you can do to make these guys happy, you make sure that you do it. New Japan Wrestling isn't brand new to WWE. They've been putting them over for a few months now with the Finn Balor special. They went in depth into Finn Balor going to New Japan, training in the New Japan Wrestling Dojo, joining up and forming the Bullet Club with Carl Anderson, and basically having a lot of the inside look at New Japan, because that was a big part of building up Finn Balor, who became the NXT champion at the Beast in the East show live from Tokyo. Now here we are, we're going to the NXT special. Jushin Thunder Liger is going to be coming over. If you watch a lot of the things on the network, basically WWE likes to call Jushin Thunder Liger one of the best cruiserweight wrestlers of all time. A guy that came to WCW wrestling in the 90s, having some great matches against Brian Pillman. They say that Liger is the guy that invented the shooting star press. They called the 1992 Super Brawl 2 match against Brian Pillman one of the greatest cruiserweight matches of all time. I think there's a lot of buzz about Liger coming and wrestling for WWE for the first time. This is the guy that wrestled in some matches in the earlier 90s, but by the time WCW became real popular during the NWO era, the matches that Liger were wrestling in were few and far between, and the matches that he was wrestling in really didn't matter in the long run. Now, when you watch New Japan Wrestling on the New Japan World, the matches that Liger wrestle in for New Japan, honestly, most of the time are the pre-show matches, or a match that just really has no buzz at all. I've seen this guy wrestle in 8-man tags with Tiger Mask and Captain New Japan probably at least 3 or 4 times since signing up for New Japan. But I think that honestly, I saw Liger wrestle WrestleMania weekend for Ring of Honor, and this guy always finds a way to deliver. People say that Liger is really getting up there in age. He's very hard to be mobile backstage because of his age and the bumps that he's taken over the year, but somehow when he hits that curtain and he makes his way down to the ring, the guy acts like he's 20 again. I think that honestly it'd be hard for it'd be hard to understand why Tyler Breeze would lose, but then again, would they really bring in Liger all the way from Japan just to lose a match and put over Tyler Breeze at the same point? So this is a little bit of a hard match to pick, but I'm going to go with the hometown guy. I'm going to go with Tyler Breeze getting the win over Liger, and seeing if that helps shoot him into stardom sooner than later. Weird things going on in the WWE NXT Tag Team title picture. Honestly, I've always been a fan of the Vaudevillains. When they came up as heels, I really liked the gimmick as far to even buy their t-shirt as being one of the reasons that I loved their intro, is one of the reasons that it got me hooked watching NXT along the way. But they went through a dry spell where it looked like the Vaudevillains were going to break up. They were going to part and go their separate ways, and that was going to be that. But somewhere along the way, they came back together and very surprisingly became number 1 contenders to go after the NXT tag titles. I thought they were just sort of put into a match against Enzo and Kaz, who honestly were hot-shotting their way through the tag team division. And out of the middle of nowhere, the Vaudevillains got a win and became the number 1 contenders. It reminded me a lot of when Blake and Murphy won the NXT tag titles from the Lucha Dragons. I'll never forget, I was watching the match, didn't really think anything of Blake and Murphy as a tag team. I had seen them a few times in singles matches, but I thought that it was just another match along the way for the Lucha Dragons getting a win. I had walked into the bathroom, and basically I heard the 1, 2, 3, and you know when a 1, 2, 3 is coming, you know, and it's going to be for real, and I'm trying to get out of the bathroom as fast as I can because I can't believe what I'm hearing, and it's the one thing that I'm always going to remember about Blake and Murphy becoming the tag titles. I will tell you that honestly, I really like the team of Blake and Murphy. I liked them before. I like him even more with Alexa Bliss added to the thing. Whoever came to Alexa Bliss and talked her into turning heel, it was one of the best decisions that you could easily make. You know, her fitting into this rivalry and helping out Blake and Murphy as outside interference has been gold to this along the way. These 4 men met a few weeks ago in late July for a tag team title match. It looked like the Vaudevillains were actually going to get the win before Alexa Bliss interfered in the match, which ended up making it where Blake and Murphy were able to escape with the championships and move on to another day. William Regal stepped in, making this match for the NXT titles once again a rematch. They're not barring Alexa Bliss from being at the outside, but in the end, I think that Blake and Murphy are going to overcome the Vaudevillains. I really like these guys. I like Blake. I like Murphy. If you're going to relate to them, that anything about that's in WWE or in the past, I think they're another team that would be a lot like the New Age Outlaws. They have a very, very cool entrance. They have very, very good working skills. Alexa Bliss is hot as hell. She really fits into this team, and I like it. I think that Blake and Murphy are going to get the win here. I wish the Vaudevillains the best. I don't really know where they fit into WWE. I don't like the team as much as a babyface as I did as a heel. But I did like them standing up to Alexa Bliss on NXT this week when Bliss walked up and slapped him in the face, not once, but twice. 4 slaps in a row, and basically they got the message loud and clear, and they stopped the promo and just basically sleeked in the back looking like geeks. So we'll see what goes down. NXT tag titles on the line, Blake and Murphy versus the Vaudevillains. One of the biggest turnaround stories there is in WWE NXT is Bayley. Bayley, of course, being one of the she is one of the most popular girls in NXT. She's a great wrestler, but when you think about, the 4 horsemen, the dream stable that was being built down in WWE NXT, it was Charlotte, it was Becky Lynch, it was Sasha Banks, and it was Bayley. I don't know if Bayley was left behind due to the fact that she suffered a broken hand, and she needed to take 2 months off in order to get herself back up to par and be back into wrestling shape and be able to throw a punch. But, she is the one girl left behind in WWE NXT, and as far as I know, she seems to be the one that's been there for about as long as anyone else. She seems to be sort of like the Sami Zayn of WWE NXT, where she's one of the most popular girls, but everybody always talks about her coming up to the main roster, but she's never really on the move. Here she is going to be going up against Sasha Banks for the NXT Championship, of course. A few specials ago at NXT TakeOver, it was Bayley going up against Charlotte, and it was not a fairy tale ending for Bayley. Bayley thought that she was going to be just going in, winning the match, becoming the new NXT Women's Champion, and she got crushed. She got killed by what she thought was her friend, being Charlotte, but Charlotte is all business inside of the ring, and she brought no friendship into there and killed Bayley in the long run. Maybe the best thing for Bayley was to get injured, had to take that time off, and now here she comes in with a brand new attitude. She comes in, she immediately beats Emma, goes on and challenges Charlotte, beating Charlotte, and then going on to the number one contenders match, beating Becky Lynch to have a shot to go up one-on-one against Sasha Banks at the NXT TakeOver show in Brooklyn. Many people will probably be picking Bayley for the one reason that Sasha Banks is on the WWE main roster, and many people think that there's no chance that she can be able to juggle back NXT and being a part of WWE, maybe not being able to wrestle on house shows due to having NXT obligations, but easily you can think of NXT as a traveling brand now. If you pull all of these competitors out, whether if it's Becky Lynch, Charlotte, Sasha Banks, Kevin Owens, these people that are wrestling at SummerSlam as well as wrestling at the NXT TakeOver show, what really is out there to draw people into buying tickets? Just Finn Balor and Samoa Joe. So I wouldn't be surprised if in this match Sasha Banks keeps her championship. It's one more prop to be using for Team Bad to be looking like one of the best things that's out there. You saw the way that they pushed the NXT champion versus the Divas champion on Monday Night Raw with Sasha Banks going up against Nikki Bella. I think this is going to be a great match. I've always thought Bayley is a great wrestler. I hope for her to be the best, and if she does win this, congratulations to her. She's a girl that wrestled for BTW here on the West Coast. I can honestly say that I never saw her wrestle a match, but she is one of the people that they tout out there as being one of their own, and it would be great for that small, as you can say, company to have an NXT women's title, as somebody that trained with them and wrestled on all their shows. But we'll be rooting for her, but in the end, I think Sasha's got her number. Many people were surprised by Kevin Owens being named as the main event at the NXT TakeOver show in Brooklyn. But, when it comes down to it, this was the main building. It's the same building that they're going to be running for SummerSlam, being the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York. So they needed to find a way to sell this thing out. I think that WWE didn't want to be embarrassed by their first show being run in a major arena for NXT, not being a huge number. So, putting Kevin Owens into this match against Finn Balor as a rematch for the NXT Championship, of course, that was decided at the Beast in the East show in Japan, is the right way to go. I think that making the decision to name the match live from Comic-Con, which had a big NXT feel with Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens, Finn Balor, Sami Zayn, Charlotte, all being in attendance. I think that basically WWE is trying to realize what Comic-Con is and what it does to, spark interest in something. If you think about the last few Comic-Cons, you've had Sting making his first real appearance for WWE. You've had CM Punk showing up and confronting Triple H, things that really went wildfire on social media. And when William Regal announced the main event for the NXT TakeOver show in Brooklyn, that was something that shot news through all forms of social media as fast as possible, live from there. But I think that Kevin Owens versus Finn Balor really did deliver on the Beast in the East show. It was a great match. I think that it was the driving force for that show. It was the real main event. Everybody knew that Brock Lesnar versus Kofi Kingston was going to be a squash match. Everyone knew that the main event of John Cena and Dolph Ziggler going up against Kane and Wade Barrett had no business being on that show and didn't even deserve being in the main event slot. The people that went to bed after the Finn Balor and Kevin Owens match, those are the people that won out. Those are the people that basically they got the extra 30 minutes of sleep, a 30-minute tag match as the main event of that show. And when it really came down to it, Finn Balor becoming the NXT champion was the story of that show. It was possibly the real reason why it was being held in Japan and why it was being shown live on the WWE network. But these guys going in and having a ladder match is going to be a really big deal. Finn Balor has really stepped up his momentum. I guess you can say that his aggressiveness in his feud against Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens is coming out of the back and attacked this guy more than once, trying to get that NXT championship back. Kevin Owens has been a big part of the main roster, having feuds against John Cena, going up at SummerSlam the night after NXT, wrestling Cesaro. Definitely that's a match that has a great place to steal a great part of SummerSlam and become a great match that people think about for a long time. But this is going to be a fun one. The ladder match, honestly, in my mind, doesn't really add anything to it. I think that honestly, when it comes down to it, I would rather have just a normal match. But if you go back and watch Kevin Owens' ladder matches, whether it be from PWG or from Ring of Honor, he's been a guy who has really great ladder wars. And I think that him and Finn are going to be able to add the ladders to that match and be able to build something that people are really going to remember. Of course, Finn Balor will be painted all up in the demon figure, and we're off to the races. Honestly, in my mind, I think everybody has seen pictures online. But I think Finn Balor is going to win this match. I think that it's just a way to keep Kevin Owens on NXT, keep him a part of the live brand whenever he's not a part of WWE house shows. I'm sure that he'd be a part of the bigger NXT shows. Maybe he'll be even coming to Sacramento in October for the Aftershock show, where NXT is going to be wrestling 2 shows in 2 nights, being a part of a big music festival here. Of course, they have Finn Balor, they have Samoa Joe, they have Bayley. I think they took Sasha Banks off of the poster. She was on it at first, but it's going to be a great fun time, and I'm really looking forward to this NXT TakeOver. I'm taking Finn in the main event. Who you guys got? It's going to be a great night. Peace out, everybody.